Kazakhstan is one of the most multinational countries which gathered representatives of more than 130 ethnicities and nations. Each ethnicity has unique traditions, inimitable holidays, interesting stories and amazing recipes. Recipes of kindness and peace, recipes of respect to your own roots and other people's culture, recipes for friendship.
Hello, this is the program Recipe for Friendship. My name is Alevtina Madyarova. I'm inviting you to admire amazing ethnic costumes, listen to interesting folklore music, and as always, get pleasantly surprised by the diversity of cultures, customs, and holidays of our country. So, coming up in our program, bright show of national costumes in the style of different eras. We decorated these costumes with Kazakh national ornaments, and in order to make these costumes, we studied the traditions and culture of the Kazakh people. Acquaintance with designers who bring ethnic culture to the masses and skillfully combine traditions and contemporary style. Today's holiday is really created in order to revive the Kazakh culture, although it's worth noting that it's already on the path of revival. Clothes in the national style are very much in demand. Representatives of various ethnic groups represented in Kazakhstan all have an interesting approach to the traditional costume. This costume is called a firebird. As you can see, it's not quite a national costume, it's more of a stylized national costume. In general, we will admire a bright, fascinating holiday, which has become one more confirmation that traditions and cultures that coexist in Kazakhstan not only stand out with their individuality, but also carefully preserved and even multiplied. Perhaps every schoolboy in Kazakhstan knows that in our country, there are more than 100 different ethnic groups and nationalities, and it's difficult to imagine a Kazakh who is not proud of the cultural diversity and hospitality of his native land. Representatives of the title a nation, Kazakhs make up more than 60% of the country's population as of August 1st, 2017, and this figure is constantly growing. Here, the great role is played by an increase of the birth rate and the flow of returnees to the historical homeland of ethnic Kazakhs who previously lived outside of Kazakhstan. The second largest ethnic group is Russian. It makes up about 20% of the population, followed by Uzbeks, Ukrainians, Uyghurs, and Tatars. At the Festival of Ethnic Costume, Ethno-Fashion, one could admire the different approach of designers to the interpretation of traditional dresses, and of course, it's not surprising that the greatest number of images and collections were devoted to the Kazakh costume. The most important decoration of any Kazakh bride has always been saukile. That's why we use the best accessories to decorate this headdress. We use such details as shekelik, which symbolizes the family, flowers, and of course, the headpiece is cohesive with the overall style of the costume. Today's holiday is really created in order to revive the Kazakh culture, although it's worth noting that it's already on the path of revival. Clothes in a national style are very much in demand, not only among the celebrities, but also among ordinary Kazakh women. Male Kazakh costume in the olden days consisted of an undershirt, jide, and pants dambal. On top of it, men wore a long shirt, camisole or korikche. Shapan served as an outerwear, the cut and decor of which differed from region to region. Both men and women wore shapan. Men usually put it on top of a beshmet or camisole. Also, people sewed gowns made of soot, as well as important materials, wool, silk, and cotton. Shapans were often decorated with embroidery. The most beautiful robes are real works of art that were worn by famous Kazakh akyns and saus, wandering singers and musicians. Favorite colors of the robe: red, purple, or bright green. Shapan is popular even now, although it underwent a number of changes. You can tell a lot about the varieties of the national men's suit, headgear, and variety of accessories, but it so happened that in ancient times and now the most attention is attracted to women's images. Here at the Festival of Ethno-Fashion, one could see variations on the theme of the images of Sokka warriors or queens. In the first place, in popularity, of course, the costume that could be worn by the legendary queen warrior Tamiris. I want to present my collection called Tamiris. Everything here is handmade. Here I mostly use the technique of felting. It's an ancient tradition of our Kazakh people. Well, this story goes back to the Sokka times. The very image of Queen Tamiris, she's a queen, she personifies a symbol of freedom and the army. Color solution is very important. Everything is done in warm colors. Here is the ornament. For this I use the non-woven materials, artificial leather and fur. Mounts were and certainly remain characteristic monuments of the Sokka area on the territory of Kazakhstan. Findings of archaeologists serve as sources of knowledge and inspiration for masters in various fields. In one of the barrows found by scientists in the Pazarik on the Altai, the remains of fur kaftans, felt coats, sewn in 2 layers, suit robes were preserved. Also, some type of Kazakh outerwear were discovered. For example, fur coats, felt coats in other regions. And what is characteristic, they're very similar to clothes from the Pazarik barrows. Felt stockings with a pattern by epochs can be found in some regions of our country to this day. And the long pointed caps of the Asian Sokkas most likely served as a prototype for saukile, later known as the headdress of the Kazakh bride. I came from Kokshetau to see this ethno-fashion show. I brought 10 suits with me. Among them the costume of Tamiris. It is sewn according to the image of Tamiris. It is decorated with different stone signs. There are no patterns, only signs left on the stones. In order to convey the spirit of that time, we sewed the costume out of felt. It is complemented by wool. Everything was embroidered with a special owl. The whole suit is sewn and handmade. The headpiece is made on the example of the golden man's cap. This is handmade jewelry work. We did everything by our own hands. The decoration on the neck was also made by hand, woven from wool. Many of the monuments of the Sokka era that were found during excavations in the territory of modern Kazakhstan, the researchers refer to the so-called animal style. Very realistic images of animals are characteristic for the early period of this style, with which undoubtedly human life was closely related. Later in the course of history, ornamental motifs became more common. Well, if we compare ancient and modern materials from which our ancestors made clothes, shoes, ornaments, and weapons, then one can state that many of the materials popular in antiquity, almost unchanged, have survived to this day. As for the patterns, you probably know the most popular one, the sheep, as one of the main totems personified power. Therefore, this pattern is called Koshkar Muse. In translation from Kazakh means sheep's horn. It can be found in different variations. It remains one of the main motifs of the Kazakh ornament. It is worth noting that all this diversity was characteristic of the Kazakh costume at least 500 years before our era. And already in the 3rd and 2nd centuries BC, a style that historians define as polychrome came to replace the animal. Its characteristic feature can be called the incrustation of the metal plate with colored stone inserts, rows of filigree belts, cloison animals surrounded by patterns of grains in the form of triangles and round bosses. This time coincides with the stay in these areas of the Huns, Usuns, and Kings, which contributed to some changes in costumes. For example, the female hat of Jayluk, which folds from a square of white cotton fabric, most likely appeared in the time of the ancient Turks. This can be judged from the sculptural images of this era. And the type of a ruffle skirt, which is called rodeshe by the Kazakhs, probably dates back to the time of Huns. Hello, we have arrived from Petropavlovsk and we're called the Theater of Fashion Tomris. We represent the collection Messengers of Spring. These costumes are made of felt, decorated with embroidery as well as with foxtails. We made all these costumes by hand. Girls worked, so to speak, day and night over the execution of this collection. And we also sew and show these costumes ourselves. We decorated these costumes with Kazakh national designs, and in order to fulfill these costumes, we studied the traditions of the Kazakh people and culture. There is a lot to see. Further development of art on the territory of Kazakhstan is vividly reflected in the artistic culture of the Kipchaks, Karluks, and other tribes. The most widely used products are artfully made of felt and silver. In this period, the matter of wrapping oneself on the left side appeared, as well as the embroidery on the edges of clothing with various kinds of ornaments, stripes with lyrics, embroidery and galloons, supposedly for protection from evil forces. With the same purpose, the female headdress of the kimishek was adorned along the edges of the cutout with embroidery and patterned stitching. To the ethnic culture of the Turks and Kipchaks, it was the custom to decorate children's and girls' hats, and in some cases hats of wandering singers with feathers of an owl, which was considered a sacred bird, and its feathers guarded its owners against evil eye and disease. Later, the formation of the Kazakh costume was influenced by Russian, Tatar, and Central Asian cultures. It's not difficult to notice the cut of a man's beshmet with an interception at the waist, as well as a flared female dress kulish kolyek and jas kolyek, dresses with thick frills and turned-down collar. The similarity of the elements of the Kazakh folk costume can be traced in all regions of the Republic. There is no particular difference in the cut, the choice of material, the appointment of individual garments. So what are the basic principles of the Kazakh national costume? The outerwear was always open and was wrapped on the left side by both men and women. In this case, the women's attire is usually sewn according to the figure. High saukili hats, so beloved by our brides, was a mandatory attribute. Border, fringe, and frills, also the basis of the basics. Embroidery, ornament, and jewelry were a must. While the traditional materials characteristic of our region, of course, are leather, fur, thin felt, and cloth made of a mutton or camel wool. We all know this, don't we? However, you will agree, it's nice to look at the historical costume with a fresh look and get acquainted with the various ways of introducing it into our contemporary life. However, at the Festival of Ethno-Fashion, we could admire not only works for which a Kazakh costume was the source of inspiration. For example, here is an image created on the basis of the Uzbek traditional clothes. This costume is called a firebird. As you can see, it's not quite a national costume, it's more of a stylized national costume. This is a national fabric called adras, Uzbek adras, and also national ornament. But at the same time, it has some modern features, so this dress can be worn not only for some performances or national events. At the Festival of Ethnic Fashion, which was held in Astana, you could admire the creations of designers inspired by the history of their ancestors, legends, and archaeological finds. This was reinforced by the spirit of those who left us this rich heritage. Well, the organizers of the festival, Ethno-Fashion, set as their goal to give young and mature designers the opportunity to show their work, to provide a platform for self-expression, and to present one more occasion for the exchange of experience and new ideas. So we all have another great way to strengthen interethnic harmony, cultural exchange, and friendship of people inhabiting our large, friendly common house. Today there is a festival of Ethno-Fashion. It is held under the auspices of the People's Assembly of Kazakhstan. This festival is aimed at showing the full diversity of colors that we have. They are representatives of all ethnic groups who live in Kazakhstan. During the event, the costumes of all ethnic groups will be shown. Naturally, our Uzbek Ethnocultural Center of Astana takes part in this. We want to show at this event the costumes which are made by the designers of Astana. These costumes represent the color of the Uzbek ethnos. As you know, such fabrics as satin, Han atlas, adras are used. These costumes express our authenticity, the culture that Uzbeks from ancient times represented to the world, and the clothes that were worn from time immemorial. Of course, we are very happy that the People's Assembly of Kazakhstan holds such events where we can show our culture, where we can show our clothes, see the clothes of other ethnic groups, and also present our ethnos to other ethnic groups living in Kazakhstan. Thus, People's Assembly of Kazakhstan shows how it unites the entire nation under one shanurag at one event, and this certainly is worth a lot. I think that we will continue to live in the same way, in friendship and unity, reach great heights, and our Kazakhstan will always be a place of peace, harmony, and solidarity. Speaking about the variety of costumes that I happened to see while living in Kazakhstan, and especially during the filming of the Recipe for Friendship program, I'm sometimes amazed how many incredible images I had to try myself during my time in this project. Remember, for example, a Korean costume, which for all its refinement and elegance is surprisingly convenient. After all, both the short of the chagori and the dress of the hanbok that is worn over it and fastened with a bow that is tied in a special way differ in free cuts and very comfortable in movement. Another thing, the wedding dress. Here the main difference, apart from the richer decoration and expensive fabric, of course, in the wide sleeves. You have to agree, it's impossible to do any housework wearing such a dress. You can only rake your hands in the dance. Also, a very characteristic image was in the Ukrainian traditional style. Remember, Ukrainians as a rule wore a long short, a plaid skirt, and on top an apron. The apron is a must, both for everyday image and the festive one. Older ladies were supposed to wear headscarf, but younger women, they can put beautiful floral wreaths with ribbons, bright beads, embroidered vests, bright boots. All this can be seen on holiday to this day. The image of the Pontic Greek woman, which I also tried on myself, characterized by the following details: a cami short sleeve, a shalbar pants, a zip-on dress with slip sleeves and a white collar, and also an apron, a loincloth, a short jacket, and a head cap. And here look the Afghan dress, a velvet dress with embroidery, bright pants, and scarf. For many regions, hijab is mandatory. Here we also had a chance to consider a number of variations of the Afghan men's suit. Here the costume of North and South, West and East, Pashtuns, Uzbeks, Tajiks, who live in different regions of Afghanistan. But all these men live in Almaty. And the traditional outfit for them is not just a tribute to traditions, such a dress is actual for Afghans even today. I also remember the Kalmyk outfit, decorated with rich handmade embroidery and equipped with many details, designed to identify what kind of woman is wearing it, what tribe she's from, what is her status, whether she's married or not. For an experienced eye, this outfit is like an open book. One of the most unusual costumes which I happened to try is perhaps hakas, a dress of a white cut with special sleeves, a characteristic set of folds, and most importantly, a headscarf, which is tied in a special manner, like a crown. In this attire, I took part in the feeding of spirits. Can you imagine? But probably one of the most memorable one was the gypsy attire, wearing it which I had to dance to. Colored skirts, beads and rows, and most importantly, a fire, without which the gypsies cannot imagine a song, a dance, and a conversation. See you soon at new celebrations in our big common house. Yours, Alevtina Madyarova.